You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a professional motivational speaker, Nancy can assist you to blow through your setbacks and start living full out. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Once again, here's Nancy.
Welcome to the Living Full Out Show. My name is Nancy Solari, and today we're going to be talking about setting the narrative. Now, we all have things that happen in our life, and we can either let them run us over, but sometimes we have to think about, I want to take my power back. I want to set the narrative for my life. I want to have my wildest dreams come true, or I want to be able to have a say in what job I have, what partner I get to run with in life. And we have that ability, but you have to take time to step back and actually write that out for yourself, or find a way to vocalize it and wish for it, and maybe put a vision board together. We're going to be talking about different ways in which you can set your own narrative. Also, in our next segment, we'll be joined by Rachel Stevenson. It's actually a very touching story. She lost her mom when she was 5 years old, but that grieving process of losing her mom at such a young age truly haunted her into her, mid-40s. But then finally, she got a gift that really answered all the questions around her mom's death and what really happened, and that gave her freedom to really set the narrative for her own life. We also want to make sure that beyond today's show that you are supported. It's very important to us that you can reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. We always want to give you resources to deal with whether it's mental health or needing resources and steering yourself in the right direction, career goal-wise or life-wise. But sometimes that's hard and you need that support, and we are beside you every step of the way. We also want to make sure that you can share today's episode with those that you love and may benefit from the show's content. So feel free to go to livingfullout.com. All of our episodes will be waiting there for you. Just find the one that has a theme that resonates most with what you're going through. Now, I am getting word from our producer that we do have a listener on the line. We're going to go check in with them. Hello, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi.
Hi there. How can I help you?
I just had a quick question. So I've been having some trouble making friends recently with a busy schedule. I've been working 2 jobs, and I'm a full-time student as well, so the school year is coming up, and I'm a commuter. So I don't really live on campus, and it's just getting difficult trying to form a social life that I'm, fulfilled by.
You know what? I feel for your situation, and I think that so many of us were there during the pandemic feeling that lack of connection. But do you sometimes feel like life is just flying by?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you think of those that are near and dearest to you in your life, maybe your 1 or 2 best friends, do they live near you, or are they a phone call away?
Oh, yeah. My closer friends are a phone call away. I do have a lot of friends that do live in different states than me, just because we've all moved away from each other. And I'm having a harder time making friends in my area. And it's just kind of stressful to go out, and especially I'm a college student, so a lot of the times we're going out, people already have their, groups formed, and it just feels sort of isolating.
Well, I got a couple options for you, things I want you to consider. So number one, I talk about this a lot on the radio because it's really a site that I'm a fan of. I've been a great recipient of it, which is meetup.com. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So Meetup is, I promise you it's most likely in your city or near you, but meetup.com allows you to go on and you create a profile, and you can put together all the different interests that you have, whether it's, socially, playing board games. For me, I love karaoke, whether it's sports, whatever that looks like. And you can put in your zip code, and you can set the parameters, whether you want to know about events 5 minutes from your house, 20 miles from your house, whatever that looks like. And you will be given a calendar of all these events that are popping up. And there have been times in my life, and I've lived all over Los Angeles, and I actually lived in Oregon and just different places, a small time out in New York, and Meetup has been all those places. And what's really interesting is if you have like I said, you love tennis or you like volleyball or you just enjoy hiking, these events are put together where you join them. It's not like everybody's coming with their posse, right? Everyone's really
Right.
come an individual. And so it kind of like, I guess, makes it so everybody's in the same place. Everybody's new. Everybody's kind of on their own, and everybody's looking to kind of create friendships. And I had a recent situation about a year ago where I lost a good friend of mine. She was my going out karaoke buddy. And we just kind of parted ways a bit, just life circumstances. And I turned to meet up. I found 3 or 4 karaoke places. I went out and I gained 10 new friends. And so,
Mhm.
and this year when I had my birthday party, all my karaoke friends were right there with me. And these were new friends within the year. So I think that's really encouraging. The other thing that came out of all the pandemic, the good in that is Meetup does have a lot of Zoom meetups as well. And I've done those too, women groups or spiritual groups, whatever that looks like. So because you are a commuter and you do have this desire to go meet people, maybe even just dipping your big toe in the water and doing a couple Zooms would kind of get you back out there. The other thing
Mm.
I want you to consider are online groups. So on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and even Pinterest, there are groups. And if you can connect within those online groups as to where people are located, oftentimes you may meet someone who is not that far from you. Now, the thing is, what I'm understanding for you is time, right? I'm going to guess that time is your biggest asset,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes in life, we have to just put a little teeny pause on areas in our life we want to thrive. Doesn't mean it will ever happen. People oftentimes will put a pause on dating because maybe they're raising their kids on their own, or just the timing of needing to be plugged into their career, they can't give it to dating. It's kind of the
Mhm.
same thing with friendships. So rather than beating yourself up and being like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm missing the boat, I feel like life is passing me by, today we're talking about setting the narrative. And that comes from you. So you can say to yourself, whether you verbally say it or inside your mind, gosh, I'm missing out, or everybody gets to go do things and I don't have the time, or I can't, or I haven't met those folks. Or you can say to yourself, you know what? This is just time when I'm working on my career, I'm working on me. And sometimes that's really good study time. Whenever I was in periods of my life where I was commuting a lot, I was leaning on YouTubes and podcasts, and it was like the university, was at my fingertips, right?
Mhm.
So this might just be a season of your life where you're learning, where you're doing, where you're working, where it's all about you. Now, it doesn't
Mhm.
mean that that solves the desire to have camaraderie or friendships. But again, if we're talking about kind of setting your own narrative, if you allow yourself to think of lack or think of missing out, then your heart will go there to a place of, well, I'm missing out, or I don't have what other people have. But if you choose words that are more like, you know what, this is just a season of my life, I'm going to give it between now and end of the year. And I'm just going to dig in. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to commute. I'm going to do everything I need to do to make myself the best I can be. But come the new year, I'm going on Meetup, right?
Yeah.
So, or you could go on Meetup now. You know what I mean? So I feel for your situation because so many of us have been there. And oftentimes, whether someone's stretching themselves, working multiple jobs, trying to go to school and work a job like you are, or whether someone's working a job, raising a family and beyond, we have all been there. But again, I just encourage you to just be your own best friend, be good to yourself. Make this about a time of you growing and you personally enriching yourself. Know that Meetup is there. Know that those online groups are there. So when time permits, friends are waiting for you, like arms wide open. They can't wait to meet you. But sometimes in life, you can't give away what you don't have. That's a true statement. Okay?
Yeah.
Mental health, your state of mind, keeping your anxiety level low, finding balance between those two jobs, school, and some downtime for your, like I said, peace of mind, that's got to be the priority. Okay?
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you calling in. Great question. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. And for everybody listening, she's spot on, right? We all have this balance of to-dos that we have to do. And it's when do you choose to put yourself first? Well, that is where you are setting the narrative for your own life. Write it down, speak it out. We have the ability to step forward. That's a large part of what it means to live full out. We'll be coming right back with Rachel Stevenson. Stay with us.
Life looks a little different. During these times, we're doing our best to keep our minds and bodies strong. And getting a flu shot helps us stay healthy, so we don't miss out on what matters. Like having game night at home. Yeah, can't do that while sick with the flu. Now imagine family movie night that your daughter can't live without. Well, that's ruined. And don't forget your uncle's socially distanced cookout. See? That's why it's important to be at our strongest. Every year, millions of people in the U.S. get the flu. Especially now, no one has time to miss out on moments that matter. So get your flu shot. Find out more at getmyflushot.org. Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about setting the narrative in your life and really setting the pace and the tempo and what you want to see happen. But a lot of times that's hard because sometimes we're given misinformation. Sometimes people lay expectations on us. And we have found you an inspirational guest today, Rachel Stevenson, who really is a great example of setting her narrative in an effort to truly live her life full out. Wasn't easy, but she got there. So I'd like to welcome Rachel to the show.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi. Hey, so Rachel, I want to just kind of allow our audience to understand, when you were 5, truly overnight, your life changed. You were sleeping with your grandmother. She came over to you. She whispered to you that your mom wasn't feeling well. You didn't know really what that meant. You thought about your mom all night. Was she sick, and in what way was she sick? And the next morning, your dad and your grandmother came through the door without your mom. And it's important that the audience understand that what they told you, the narrative that they told you, was really where, the hurdles in your life started. So what did they say happened to your mom?
They said that, my dad in particular said that my mommy was in heaven. So ultimately, the language that was used was not, concrete language about real life and real things. It was more euphemistic, right? So not even saying that she had died, just saying that she was in heaven now, with no explanation as to why. And
that's not only confusing, but I don't even know as a child where you put your tears. Are you that grieving process, just even in that instant, must have been difficult to comprehend. I mean, you're only 5. Now, your grandmother obviously loves you very much, but, she said a phrase to you that really haunted you for pretty much your whole life, almost just erasing your mom away. What did she say?
Well, in an effort, of course, to be a caretaker, right, and an effort to ultimately help me to get beyond this traumatic event, she said to me, "You can call me mommy now." And I very quickly rejected that. And, the point you made earlier about only being 5 years old, I mean, the interesting thing is, even though I was only 5, and even though there was not a lot of very clear information being shared, I knew in that moment, in the depths of my soul, that I was never going to see my mother again. I mean, there was just something very finite about what was shared with me. I didn't have any fantasies that she might come back one day. I mean, it was very clear that this was the beginning of the rest of my life. And so I think in some ways that also allowed me, because I recognized that profound shift, right? I think that allowed me to very quickly and adamantly say no to my grandmother when she made that offer, which I know now, and I guess I knew then, she was making out of love and an attempt to basically fill a gap, right, and make me feel whole. But yeah, I definitely rejected that. My mother was gone, but no one could replace her.
Absolutely. And being legally blind myself, I don't have my sense of sight anymore, but I lean on all my other senses. And one of the things that I've always so appreciated about you is it's almost like your heart is a sense all on its own. And you throughout this whole time of growing up, from being 5 through your teenage years, through your 20s, you just never quite let it go. Like you just knew that there was more to this narrative. And it was a hunch, it was instincts. And your dad, unfortunately, really kind of came back at you like you don't understand. But how could you understand if you're not really given all the data, all the news, all the data, all the information? So I know that, you loved your dad. I know he was almost like a big brother to you, but I imagine you had some pretty heated conversations, really begging for answers. How did he handle those?
Yeah. We had a couple of those conversations, honestly, not that many in our time together. My sense is that he grieved alone. I mean, he did not share his grief with me. That's definitely true. And, over the years, as I did learn more information about what had actually happened to my mother that night, which of course is that she was killed in a car accident, I was hungry for more information. I wanted to understand how the people in my life felt about that, what their experiences were. And I think probably the most important person in the whole wide world to connect with about this would have been my dad, right? I mean, he was with her when she died, but he could not go there. And yeah, I mean, there were a couple times, especially, when I was an adult and a parent myself, and you're right, always committed to this idea of truth telling and having the difficult conversations. And I know that was very much shaped by my own experience and like the desperation I felt to know all the things. But, a couple of times I did confront him, and I mean, his response wasn't unlike his silence. I mean, basically he said, and didn't even say this, we did this over email, which is the weirdest thing, right? I mean, we couldn't even have the conversation face to face. It was just in writing. But I mean, his response when I did finally push, probably harder than I ever had before, was, why can't you let this go? Why do you keep asking about this? I was with her when it happened. I'll never forget it. Every day. I mean, it was just like a 4 or 5 sentence email, which was completely shocking. And it was the first time, he'd ever said anything explicit about the night, but it also cut off any further conversation. It was clear to me he was in a lot of pain, and, he just couldn't get there with me.
That sets equally hard. It's almost like although he loved you, it's almost like that anger, that frustration, that I guess almost helplessness he felt in being able to help her in that accident. It's like all that energy was coming at you in that very short email, that years of buildup. And Rachel, I want you to stay with us because there is so much more to your story, not only how you found out the truth, but also how you weathered all that grieving and mourning on your own. And I want everybody who's listening today to really obviously learn from Rachel's story. But I think it's very important that if you are going through loss, you are going through grieving of your own, know that we are here for you. Reach out to us, obviously connect at livingfullout.com. And if you know someone who also has gone through a loss, please do share Rachel's story with them, even beyond today's interview. She's got a very powerful TED Talk. So we're going to be coming right back, more with Rachel Stevenson.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today?
The only thing I didn't learn today?
The only thing I didn't learn
is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
I'm Nancy Solari, certified life and business coach. I want to invite you to the Personal Development Boot Camp. During the boot camp, we're going to be looking at taking those insecurities that you have and getting rid of them. We're also going to look at ways in which you can thrive and live a life full of purpose. Go to livingfullout.com/bootcamp, livingfullout.com/bootcamp to sign up. I believe in you, and here's to you living your life full out.
They'll challenge your authority.
Put your seatbelt on.
They'll try to break your will. They'll push you to the edge of your sanity. Because that's what kids do. But this car is your territory, not theirs. Defend it. Who makes the payments? Who cleans it? Who drives it? You do. That's who. And in here, your word is law. So when you say you won't move until everyone's buckled up, you won't budge an inch. Until you hear that click. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. For more information, visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup.
7 million children suffer from asthma, more than any other chronic disease. Most asthma attacks are caused by allergic reactions to allergens, including those left behind by cockroaches and mice. In fact, 82% of U.S. households contain mouse allergens, and cockroaches are found in up to 98% of urban homes. How can you protect your family? Find out at pestworld.org. A message from the National Pest Management Association and the American College of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Get it, slip it, cuff it, check it. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association. In partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. With Nancy's expertise, you'll learn how to embrace your potential and strive for success. If you have a question or need further support, send us an email at connect@livingfullout.com. Now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about setting the narrative in your life. And sometimes that means that you got to quiet the noise. You got to put other people's expectations in check and follow your heart. And Rachel Stevenson, our inspirational guest for today, has done exactly just that in really piecing together the loss of her mom, but also writing the narrative for her future. So I'd like to welcome Rachel back to the show.
Thanks, Nancy. Great to be here.
Absolutely. And Rachel, thank you for such honesty and vulnerability, because it's a hard topic to talk about. My mom is one of my best friends. And so, I feel for you having lost your mom at such a young age. But on the flip side of that, I know that's what's made you such a great mom to your 3 girls. But I also know that it's interesting. When your grandmother said, you can call me mommy, you were like, nope, my mom is my mom, that's not going to happen. But you also had a moment where your little daughter, obviously she just said it, wasn't thinking, said, gosh, I wish, I wish our aunt was my mom, right? And that moment, that was another poke at you. What is it about feeling like you're going to be forgotten, because there is this correlation to you not wanting to forget your own mom, but also fearing that others, like your daughters, will forget you.
Yes, I mean, that's definitely something I've thought a lot about. And yeah, I mean, it did start in that moment with my grandmother, because I felt like, again, though she was ultimately, acting out of what she thought was what I needed at the time, it was threatening, right? I mean, it threatened the memory of my mother. I also thought that in an effort to protect me from pain and loss, there were efforts, in my family's approach to just sort of erase my mother, right? Not many pictures around, not many stories being told. I mean, I also, was not a part of her funeral. I mean, there was just, a wall sort of built up about let's keep Rachel separated from those things. And so it felt like it was a second death for my mom, right? Like that she couldn't even be a part of our conversation, right? I couldn't see her even in photographs. And so, yeah, I mean, that always was on my mind. And of course, yeah, when my daughter made that comment, which was, simply because she was having, a fun week with her aunt, who was taking her to lots of fun places over the summer, and she just wanted to play all the time. I honestly knew she didn't mean for real that she wanted a new mom, but something really got to me. This kind of threat, like what if something were to happen to me? I mean, I always think about that. I mean, always, given the loss that I experienced, I know that it's possible. A split second can change everything, right? And so I've thought, yeah, what if I disappeared from the lives of my daughters in the same way my mother disappeared from my life? And there is this kind of deep fear about the erasure, right, and the replacement. But in the end, I rejected that myself as a child. I certainly reject it now. I mean, my mother, despite her death, is ever present for me, like a very important figure, even though there's so many unknowns about her. And I think, yeah, the way that I've chosen to be a mom, which has been incredibly healing, makes me super, super, super present in the lives of my children. I feel like they know me in and out. I know them in and out. And, if anything were to ever happen, I would be with them forever and ever and ever. So, I mean, I see that, I recognize that, but there is that sort of irrational fear that I suppose is, tied up in early trauma, right? I mean, you can't escape it.
Yeah, and again, my heart goes out to you, because you, again, were so young. You were 5. Your mom was in her early 20s when she passed, and your dad was actually in his, fairly early 50s when he passed. But after your dad had passed and you reconnected with a friend at the service, and you ended up learning the truth from that friend, because he was there, he witnessed it all and was present. And when you found out about how your mom had passed and what had happened, and really the intense pain that your dad felt, at that time, did that in some way, I guess, make the grieving process whole in any way? Did having answers in some ways fill in and better explain why your dad was so distant?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it was a really big deal. I mean, I had learned that my mother had died in a car accident, probably when I was around, 11, 12. So it was many years after her death, too many years for sure. But I knew that fact as a child, but I didn't know anything beyond that fact, right? And as I mentioned earlier, my dad, having been with her in that moment, was the keeper, right, of that story, and it was never shared with me. But yes, when I met these friends of his, whom I had met previously, but we'd never had a deep and meaningful conversation until my dad's memorial, I learned, or was reminded, that they had been in the car with my parents when the accident happened. And so when this was shared, I reacted very strongly to this fact, right? And I said, "Oh my God, I'd never learned what happened. I've always, wanted to know. My dad could never share." And so, yes, when my dad's friend finally decided to share everything in writing with me, he sent an email a few weeks later that he called Details, and it literally told the story of what happened that night. He painted a devastating picture. The car had been hit, from the side by another car that did not stop at a stop sign. The car flipped over several times. My mother was partially ejected from the passenger side window, which had been open. And, when the car came to a full stop, basically my father's friend who was in the back seat was like a movie camera, right? And when he told me what he saw, it was like I was there. And basically he saw my dad pulling my mother back into the car, screaming her name over and over. I mean, I think she had died instantly. So, there was no reaction, right? And my father screamed her name and screamed her name and screamed her name. And meanwhile, my dad's friend got out of the car, made sure the cops came to the right spot, was talking to the people on the scene, and my father refused to leave the vehicle. And he was just, holding her. And that is horrific. That is devastating. And he even told me that the paramedics and the police had to basically pry him out of the car and separate him from her so that they could, I guess, attempt to give her care, even though I think it was clear to everyone that she was gone. But I mean, that I can't even imagine from my dad's perspective.
Rachel, as you tell this story, I can't help but ask you before we have no more time today. You mourned your mom. You mourned her again when you found out the truth in your early teens. About the accident. You mourned your dad. You mourned your dad again when you got this details letter from the friend. But at the end of the day, are you in a place where you're finally healed, or are you still sad, mourning? And do you think you'll ever feel whole?
That's a hard question. It is true. I mean, you're absolutely right that every time there's either a milestone, like something happens, or there's a discovery, it sort of changes your relationship to the loss and to the grief, right? And so it's an evolving situation. I mean, it's funny. I'm thinking a little bit about the language you used at the opening to talk about, hurdles, right? Hurdles that I've been through. I would reframe that and say, because I never thought in the moment, even though I may have felt anger or frustration, but I never felt like I was up against anything that, that I was dealing with what I would call in the moment a hurdle. Instead, it was just life, right? And life is tough. Life is hard. Life hands you things you got to deal with, and you're navigating life and you're evolving as a person through it. And you're making choices. You know what I mean? So I don't think, am I more healed than I was? For sure. Has the family that I've created with my husband helped me to do that? Absolutely, positively. But do I still have moments of great sadness? Yes. Do I still feel angry? Yes. Not all the time, but sometimes. And, do I still sort of fantasize about what life would be like if both of my parents were here and actively participating in the lives of their beautiful grandchildren? All the time. So, I feel like there's something that, this is a fact in my life. It's something that I'm going to live with forever and ever and ever. And I don't think I'll ever be fully whole, but this is who I am. It's where I am. And, and I'm doing what I can to grow from it. And also,
I think honestly, you sharing the story, and I know you did a TED Talk, and you're just really out there talking a lot about grieving and really, empowering adults to, be more open with children, especially. And so I think you're doing great. And what was your dad and your mom's names?
Margie and Steve.
Well, we are going to dedicate today to Margie and Steve in their honor. And I want to thank you very much, Rachel, for being on the show. And like I said, being so courageous to talk about a topic that is so hard and in some ways taboo to talk about, depending on, what somebody has in terms of a support system. So thank you so much for going out there and taking that leap of faith and being a stand for others to write their narrative. And we're going to continue to wish you all the best.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks for creating the space for this important conversation.
Well, can't do it without you. And I'm so proud of you, truly. So thank you so much, Rachel. And for everyone else, we're going to be coming right back after this break, but continue to think about how you're going to set the narrative in your life. We'll be coming right back. It's all about living full out.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with a sun protection factor, or SPF, of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. UVA rays age the skin, UVB rays burn, and both cause cancer. But the perfect sunscreen doesn't count if you use it wrong. Don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day? Wrong. 80% of UV rays still get through the haze. Only use sunscreen at the beach? Nope. Anytime you're outside, UV rays attack the skin, so you need protection. And you have to reapply sunscreen every 2 hours. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
When it comes to setting the narrative, this is so exciting because, yes, things are going to happen to you that are hard. Yes, they're going to be unexpected. Yes, you're going to sometimes feel jaded or frustrated. But you know what? Turn that new page and look at the future that you want. Don't let the past haunt you, but write your narrative. Write out how it's going to end. We can't read the last page first. I wish we could, but truly the thing is, it's the journey that is all about living full out.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a professional motivational speaker, Nancy can assist you to blow through your setbacks and start living full out. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Once again, here's Nancy.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we've been talking about setting the narrative in your life. And truly, that is sometimes easier said than done, because I know that sometimes when we have losses in our life, whether it's a loss of a family member or whatever that looks like, it can be hard. It's that tightness in your throat. It's that, stomach flipping and flopping. It's sweaty palms. And how do you come away from that place of shock, that place of anxiety? And all I can tell you is that someone who has been there many, many different times, I have chosen to write my own narrative, truly. And what I mean by that is, for example, when I was 16 and I was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa, my eye condition, the doctor pretty much told my mom that I would be blind by 40. Well, I'm in my late 40s now, but I can still see a little bit of shade, a little bit of light and dark. And I mean, don't test me on colors. And well, nighttime is really dark and nobody wants Nancy driving, right? So there's certain, independence that have been taken away over the years. But I can still see a little something. And that light is all I need to know that I can still see. I can still say that a little bit. And so I choose to write my narrative that I'm legally blind. Now, legally blind is a strange term, and if you ask people that fall into the legally blind bucket, there's a huge array of what people can see and can't see. But I can still say that. I still see some light. And so how you choose to set the narrative, how you choose to talk about yourself, your experience, your challenges, whether you choose to be a half glass full or half empty person, that is up to you. I choose hope. I choose positivity. I choose to be able to say, well, I can still see something, and even add a little giggle to the end. Because if I don't do it that way, then it's dun, 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 right? And, being a victim, being a forever patient, there's nothing sexy about that. There's nothing inspiring about that. And your dreams and your goals want better for you. But if you allow yourself to stay in a narrative that is daunting, that is scary, that is victim, then it's really hard for your future to say, well, I guess you're ready for more. No, your future's going to say, oh, she's not ready for more. Well, we got to comfort her. We got to, let's just put off these future goals and aspirations that she wants because she's just not ready yet. Your future wants you to be ready, but it's going to start with you and what you say and the narrative and the future plans and how you script it out. It all starts with you. Another situation in my life, which I'm, public about is, I went through life with having 5 miscarriages. Those are hard. When I interview people and they've had infertility issues or miscarriages or even loss of children who have already been born, but maybe they lose them at 2 or 5 due to an accident or something, I am with them. That is a really hard, not pill to swallow. It is a really hard event to write a positive narrative. But I do. I always say to myself, my kids were so great, they just took the express to heaven. They're my heaven babies, right? Bypass Earth just all the way, right? And again, it's how you choose to take a circumstance in life. Is it going to be scary? Is it going to be a life sentence? Or are you going to take out that pen, put it to paper, and write out a new narrative? Again, I choose that every time. And it isn't to say that it's easy. Even when I think about loves in my life, and I've dated some really great men in my life, a couple not great, but I even choose that those that had their own blemishes, their own flaws, I even choose to say, well, I loved an aspect of them. And I also choose to say that when I say to somebody, I love you for whatever time we dated, I love them. I still want the best for them. But there's a difference between being in love with somebody and loving somebody. So I think it's good to be in a lane where we love people. But loving someone and being in love are two different things. And again, that's me finding that phrasing. And it's really made it possible for me to be friends with exes. I've got some really great ex-boyfriends of mine that we're the best of buddies. And again, some I did let go of. But the thing is, I embrace knowing that change is going to happen. I also embrace knowing that, things are going to get off course. There's a saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right? Well, I'm a planner, so he must laugh a lot at Nancy. But the truth is, we have the ability to steer our ship. It's not going to be a smooth ride every time. Sometimes we're going to need to pause and recalculate. Sometimes we're going to have to put our foot to the pedal and speed up or slow down. And I don't say that to you just, to put words out there. I mean that sincerely. So where you are in your life, if you're in pain, if you're in grieving, I get it. But it's important that you go out there, write that narrative so you can live full out. The entire Living Full Out family thanks you for listening, and know that we are beside you every step of the way. And we all want you to just get out there, smile big, live big, and most of all, live full out. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Living Full Out Show with Nancy Solari. To learn more about this program, visit livingfullout.com for the latest episodes. Connect with the Living Full Out community by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Here's to you, living full out.